Welcome to this week's edition of Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm Rebecca Powers. So happy to have you with us. And thank you as always, Tom, for having me. I learn something every week with you.
It's so much fun to work with you. We seem to work well together, and there's so many times you think about things I'm about to say and just ask me the question just at the right time.
It's almost like we're married, huh?
Yes, but don't tell my wife. Okay.
All right, so last week we talked a lot about inflation, specifically how it affects the retirees, you, or anyone leading up to retirement. Tom made the choice many, many years ago in the mid-90s to specialize in retirement planning, and that is how you have helped so many people live their retirement dreams. We talked about inflation and how it impacts you specifically. It shrinks your dollar. Let's talk this week about taxes.
Taxes just outright take away your dollar. Okay?
Yes.
They don't shrink your spending power, they'll take it away. I train every year at least 4 days with America's Authority. He's been called on IRAs and 401ks, and he is a bald-headed CPA tax attorney from New York named Ed Slott. I think he's an absolute genius on IRAs and 401ks, and he said taxes, and he's drilled this into my thinking in helping my clients over a period of years. Taxes are the sole biggest thing that will take away your retirement dreams. And we've done shows before where your retirement dreams, that's where we start. What do you want to do in retirement? And the problem is you come in and you think you've got X amount of dollars and it's all in an IRA and a 401k, and you really don't have that much money. Now, things have changed, though. They've changed the rules quite a bit. Back, I can remember, and it had to be around 1958 or 1959, I can remember my parents dressing me up in a little suit and a bow tie, okay?
How cute.
Yeah, don't imagine that. It's an ugly thought. And I must have been 6 years old. I put this little suit on. We drove down. I lived in Dublin, Georgia, and we drove down to Savannah, Georgia, where my grandfather, Silas Mosley, retired from the railroad. And they gave him, Rebecca, at that time, they gave him a pension. They gave him a party. That's what we were there for. They gave him a gold watch that two of my aunts fought over and never spoke again till for the rest of their life, fighting over that watch. Okay,
and because he didn't have a written plan. That's why that watch was.
He didn't have it written down in a trust or a will. But that's what they did to people back then. People had pensions, and then they changed the rules. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to add, in the late 70s, we're going to add these things called 401ks and 403bs. And the pension is a defined benefit plan. That's what they're called. It's a benefit that's defined, okay? The 401ks, the 403bs, the 457s, you say, Tom, why do they always start with fours? Because that was the paragraph of the law that was passed in Congress, was the fourth paragraph, and each paragraph, there's a 401A, there's a 409.
Gotcha.
It's not a cleaner, okay? Not the 409 we used to have.
I always wondered about that, where the 401k name came from.
That's exactly where they came from. That's all the four plans came there. And those are defined contribution plans. Now, when it first started, nobody that I know of, I haven't really checked this out, but I don't recall reading of anybody who said, we're going to a 401k and we're dropping the pension immediately. What happened was, over a period of time, they said, we'll match. The biggest match, the most common match when they first came out with those was, we'll match 10%. You put in 10%, we'll match 10%, plus you get the pension. Now, I still run into people. They seem to be like in their mid-70s to 80s, and they just have gotten by to where they are at that point, and then they get scared and they need a plan.
Right.
So they come in and we write a plan for them, and some of them have a pension and a 401k, and we start talking about it, and they actually got 10% when it first started. The most popular match now, to show you how the rules change on these defined contribution plan, I mean, if I'm putting in 10, they're putting in 10, they're contributing. And if they're also giving me a pension, that's a good deal. But over a period of time, the pension sort of faded away.
Right.
And the 401k match sort of faded away. The number 3 most popular match right now is zero.
Really?
They get nothing on a match. And that's why it's really important that you understand when they match, that's really cool. I was teaching our 4-hour master class. Now, you can go to our website. It's www.mosleywealthmanagement.com, and you can sign up to attend one of our seminars. We're getting to a point where we have anywhere from 5 to 10 people every week sign up online to attend our seminars, and we've got them spread out all over Southern California. Well, I was teaching this 4-hour master class probably 10 years ago, and I simply said in that class, I said, if you have $400,000 in a 401k, it's not all your money. Well, I say that about 2.5 hours into that 4-hour master class, and there's this little sweet lady, hadn't said a word. I looked at her really closely a couple of times to see if she was moving, and when I said it's not all your money, she erupted. She said, "What do you mean it's not all my money? My company never matched. They never put anything in, and I put all that money in there, and it's grown." She was really cute. She said, "I don't have 400,000, but I've got 357,918." I mean, she knew right to the penny. But when you start to take that money out, you're going to realize, like it or not, you're going to have to pay tax on it. And they even changed the rules on that. They had the Secure Act back in 2019, and they changed the rules. And when they did the news conference on the Secure Act, they were standing up like the politicians do, and the first one said, "We just passed the Secure Act. It's not going to impact you in any way. It's not going to cost you anything." The next person stood up and said, "This is a great act for the American people." I love it when they say the American people, the American people. They just say it over and over and over again. But he said it's a great act for the American people because it's going to put $388 billion over the next 10 years back into the U.S. Treasury.
What?
Wait a minute.
How does that help me?
How's it going to happen? Where's that 388 coming from? It's coming out of increased taxes. So when we're talking about taxes, I don't want you to just think, well, they raised taxes. And listen to my statement here. Rebecca, they raise taxes a lot of times without raising taxes. Because what they do is they cut your deductions, or they charge you more for a certain thing, or there's a ruling that causes you to pay more tax. And therefore, in essence, they're raising taxes, but they're not really raising the rate that you see. It's what Ben Bernanke, who used to be in charge of the Federal Reserve, and a lot of people feel like they have to, clear their mouth spit whenever they say the Federal Reserve anymore. But Ben Bernanke used to call those stealth taxes. Because you really don't feel them, but they're a tax that's not a raise in the rate. Let me tell you what we do. When I first started, the major goal I had was to make sure people didn't run out of money the rest of their life. But I realized after 3 or 4 years in the business, we sort of backed into our mission statement, because we exist to help people that are pleasant to get along with, make sure they have sufficient income for the rest of their life, and they pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes. And one of the things you need to do is ask your broker, because there's some of the big box firms that will flat tell you, we don't do tax harvesting. We don't do a lot of tax information. We're here to grow your money. We're not here. Look, taxes are going to be the biggest thing to separate you from your dreams. And taxes, as you'll find later in this show, they're already planning to go up on taxes. It's not a matter of will they go up or when will they go up. We know a date when they're going to raise taxes. And so if you're in retirement or you're getting close to retirement and you've got that big 401k or that big IRA set aside, or whatever your qualified plan is that's got to be taxed for you to be able to spend it, you need a tax plan. And it's really important that you hear this. You have a tax plan. I'm going to tell you about it later in the show. The government has a plan for you. You need to get your own, because your own will save you sometimes, most of the time, hundreds of thousands of dollars. How do you get it? You got to dial that number and get on one of the calendars of one of our 6 all-star advisors. The number is 866-709-1462. That's 866-709-1462. It's going to be up there on the screen till the end of the segment. You see it, just punch it in, give us a call. Operators are standing by. If they're busy, call back or they'll call you back, but don't give up on this. You need, part of what we do is we build that retirement blueprint for everyone, but part of that is a tax report that'll show you exactly how much money people working with us potentially could save on their taxes if they just have their own plan versus the government plan. But you've got to call to get the blueprint, and part of that is the tax report.
And when we come back, we're going to delve a little deeper into taxes. There's a very big difference between tax preparation and tax planning. That's what we'll talk about next.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination rain on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Right on the Money. We are specifically talking to you, the retirees, or any of you in that red zone, 5 to 10 years before retirement. Extremely important to listen to today's show. Taxes. You've said, you have a silent partner. It's not all your money. The silent partner is Uncle Sam. This is what can destroy retirement. How do you make that plan? It seems too good to be true. How do I stay legal and still pay the right taxes, I guess?
Well, there was a guy in Southern California, and I heard this from a couple of different people, because you hear people that are out there looking for help tend to go to dinner seminars and other things like that where everybody's an expert. And we do some of those things too, don't get me wrong. It's hard to get on television and be on radio like we are at 8 o'clock on KNX every Saturday, and down in San Diego on KOGO at 11 on Sunday morning, and then have TV shows here and there. It's hard to get out and put your wares out there and be a fraud, or be somebody who doesn't understand what's going on.
That's right.
So when we're working through that, people were coming into my office, more than one were coming in and saying, and they were almost saying it in hushed tones, I've got a guy, I went to his dinner seminar, and he told me that if I'll give him my 401k, he'll roll it over 1 year, roll it over the next year, roll it over the next year, and then after about 3 or 4 years, I won't have to pay any tax on it. Well, I'm an old football coach. The first time the other team runs a play against you, you really don't know what to do, okay, because it's new.
Yeah.
But the second time they run the play against you, you better have a defense. So the next time somebody came up with that, I thought through what I was going to say, and they same thing. Hey, I got a guy who'll roll it over and roll it over, and I said, I know what that's called. And this lady, she was like, really? And she perked up like, maybe there's a loophole, maybe there's a way. And I said, that's called a penitentiary, okay? Because you and he could go to the penitentiary. We're not talking about cheating taxes.
Of course not.
Okay? We're not talking about doing something illegal. I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that, basically because of who I am and what I stand for. We're not talking about that. We're talking about taking the tax laws and using them to your advantage in every single way possible. Now, a lot of people come up and they say, well, I've got a CPA. Doesn't he or she, don't they do that? Most of the time, the answer is a flat out, no, they don't. I love my CPA. We were on a ministry team together in our church for about 6 years before he moved to Nashville. He still does my taxes. We do everything remote. But Dave calls me twice a year. In February, he calls me, get your stuff in, okay? And then he calls me in March or in April and he says, I got your stuff ready. I mean, those are the two phone calls that we get. Because Dave is always looking where? He's looking at last year. Now, if you're driving, I've used this illustration before, but if you're driving down the road of retirement, the last part of your life, and you're driving down the road, there's two ways to look. You can look out the windshield or you can look in the rearview mirror. And Dave, like most good CPAs, you need them. They're valuable. We don't do that kind of stuff. We don't do tax returns with what we do. What we do is, instead of looking at the rearview mirror to see how little you had to pay in tax for what you made last year, we look through the windshield and we say, okay, over a course of 10, 12, 20, 30 years of retirement with this huge IRA that, Rebecca, you cannot spend IRA money or 401k money until it goes through the filter of the U.S. tax code.
Okay.
Because you're going to have to pay tax on it before it gets spendable. What we're going to do is look down that windshield and say, what if we strategized with a personal plan for you and we paid, please listen, don't turn the TV off. If we paid a little more tax now, so that overall we could pay a lot less tax over the long haul. That's what we're looking at. How much tax, not am I going to get by with or look back last year, how little did I have to pay, but how much can I pay right now so that in the future I don't have to pay a lot more. Let me give you one peg on the future. People ask me all the time. I ask people all the time in our tax seminars, do you think taxes are going to be higher or lower in the future? If you think they're going to be lower in the future, call me, because you are the only person in America that thinks they're going to be lower, with our debt just continuing to go higher and higher and higher. A couple of months ago, they passed another law that says we can go $4 trillion more. It's not stop it or go down. It's $4 trillion more. Taxes are scheduled already to go up on January 1st, 2026. Now that's just 2.5 years from now. Taxes are going to go higher. When you come in, when you call in 866-709-1462, as part of building a complete retirement blueprint, we're going to run a tax report on your IRAs and 401ks. And we're going to show you, by the government's way of paying them out and living your life, passing them on to your heirs, to your spouse if you're married, or to your heirs if you're married or you're single. We're going to show you approximately how much tax you could end up paying if you just do it their way, versus how much tax you could pay if you're proactive and you take the right steps to pay more tax sooner, looking through the windshield of your life down through the next few years, as opposed to always just looking back. How little do I have to pay now? You need to look at how much you're going to have to pay overall. We can show that to you. We can put it in numbers, in writing, but you've got to pick up the biggest number you need right now is not your IRA, your 401k, not how much tax you're going to save. The most important number for you right now is on the phone. It's 866-709-1462. Call us, get on our schedule. We can't help you unless you reach out to us.
And you grew up on a farm, Tom. It's like paying on the acorn now instead of the big, beautiful oak tree later. And that is basically what he's talking about. And taxes are on sale because they won't be any cheaper. Stay with us, more on how you can be right on the money in retirement right after this.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision. So why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Welcome back. We're talking about paying taxes. It's one of those things that no one likes to do, obviously, or even really talk about, but it is imperative. Like you said, the beginning of 2026, the rates are going to go up. What are some of those tools? What are those ways, Tom, that you do that you kind of pay more now and transfer it over?
Okay. A lot of people come into us, Rebecca, and they say, you know, they've got a pension, they've got, sometimes, they've got Social Security, they've got their house paid for. Their budget really has gone down once you get your house paid for. Just a side note here. If you can get your house paid for before you retire, that would be a noble reason to work another year or two. And I know as a financial advisor, I'm supposed to tell you don't pay your house off, leave all your money with me so I can make money off of it. That's what most people think. And they don't say that out loud that way, but that's what they think, okay?
Yeah.
But as your budget goes down, and a lot of people come in, Rebecca, and they say, I really don't need this money out of my IRA or my 401k. Can I just leave it there? Well, sorry, that's where the government steps in. And the government says that right now the age is 73. At 73, you have to start taking a specific amount. It's called a required minimum distribution. You have to take that out starting at 73. Now, what if you don't, and by the way, you pay tax on that at regular income. Now, what about those people who don't need it, okay?
Yeah.
They don't need it, so they put that into an after-tax account. And in that after-tax account, it grows, and you don't pay tax on the money that you put in, but as it grows, then you pay a different kind of tax. You pay capital gains on that. So as it grows and it turns over, you spend it or you take it out or whatever, you're going to pay capital gains tax on that. Then you're going to get to the end of your life, and you're probably going to leave some or a good portion of that IRA or 401k to your heirs. Well, now, since the Secure Act of 2019, they have to pay that, they have to take the money out within 10 years, and they have to pay income tax at their regular income tax rate. So you get taxed when you take it out by required minimum distributions. You put it into another account, you get taxed on the capital gains there, and then you leave it to your heirs, and they get taxed at their tax rate, usually when they're in their prime earning years, when they're making more. Like you leave it to your kids if they're in their 40s, they're in their 50s, then they're probably making more and their income is pretty high, and then you tack on, if you leave them a $1 million IRA, which hopefully you do, but if you leave them a $1 million IRA, they've got to pay another $100,000 worth of income, tax on that much income every single year. So the government's got this plan of taxing you over and over and over. Now, there is a way. It's called a Roth conversion, where you can use a Roth. Somebody raises a flag. Oh, I wish I'd have started a Roth when I can contribute to a Roth. Wait a minute. You can start a Roth whether you can contribute to it or not. You have to have earned income. You're right. You have to have earned income to contribute to a Roth. But you can, according to current law, they've thought about changing it, but no, none so far. You can convert part of that IRA, that 401k, every single year by paying the taxes now, looking out the windshield rather than just the rear view mirror, looking out the windshield and say, how much can I convert now? Because I know taxes are going to be higher in the future. Let me convert as much as I can afford or stomach paying the tax on. Pay it now. You put it into a Roth. Now let's look at what happens to a Roth. When you get to 73, if all of your money's in a Roth, you don't have any required minimum distributions. You don't have to put it into an after-tax account in your life and pay capital gains on it. And when you leave it to either your spouse if you're married or your heirs if you're single, they don't have to pay tax on it. As long as you've got money in an IRA or a 401k, you are forever going to be taxed on it. When you get money into a Roth IRA, what's the difference in the word? You are never going to pay tax on it again. I love it, Rebecca. One of the joys of this business is when I can start working with somebody who retires, say when they're in their early 60s or mid 60s, and we've got 8 years to spread that out. You don't want to do it all at one time. It's called harvesting.
Okay.
We spread it out. We have software. Don't try to do this on your own. You could mess up your Medicare Part B and Part D. You could mess up your capital gains, a lot of things. So we use this software to say, if we convert this much, this is how it's going to impact these other areas. You need that professional advice, but I love it. I love it when they get to 73 and the government knocks on the door for their required minimum distributions, and I tell people, I want you to laugh when you turn 73 at the government, because it's all in a Roth and I owe no tax on it. I'm not required to take any out. My heirs are not going to pay any tax on it. It's such a, and the relief of that. And by the way, we said earlier that if you've got money in a 401k, it's not all your money. If you've got money in an IRA, it's not all your money. Let me tell you something real plain. If you've got money in a Roth IRA, every penny of it is yours and it's real, and you can spend it when you want to, the way you want to do it. So it's a beautiful plan. Does it work for everybody? Almost.
Yeah.
And the tax report that we've talked about on this show will show you, because your numbers are different than anybody else, the tax report will show you how many dollars you have in still to be taxed dollars, and it'll show you what we can convert over a period of years, systematically harvesting it out over into, and by the way, the big box firms don't want to do this.
Yeah, why?
Well, I'll tell you why. If you got $100,000 in an IRA, and they tax harvest and it takes you 22 or 25%, then they're only managing $75,000. Guess what? We are too. But our clients are so much better off to have that tax behind them at a rate we know what that rate is today before it goes up. So I love it because we're fiduciaries. We're not fiduciaries because we're licensed fiduciaries. We are. We're fiduciaries because we do what's in the best interest of our client. And some of the big box firms just refuse to do it. Call us, 866-709-1462. Get your tax report, part of a big blueprint.
And there is no obligation, absolutely no cost for this, with 4 offices throughout Southern California for your convenience. And thank you again so much for joining us. Keep those emails coming in too, by the way. We really love your comments. It gives us ideas for this show. We love you. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.